Metal Jesus, I'm back again to do a retrospective on the mighty Atari 5200. Man, this thing is massive. Now, I've done a bunch of videos on other Atari consoles like the 2600 and the 7800. I love those systems. And occasionally I'll get questions about, should you collect for the Atari 5200? Well, the answer to that is not so simple, because there are some great things about the console and some not so great things about it. So what I thought I would do is show you around the system and also show you some gameplay and talk about what I think. Should you collect for it? Let's take a look. The Atari 5200 came out in 1982, and it was designed primarily to compete with the Intellivision. Now, the Intellivision, when that came out, it was fairly impressive. It had an advanced controller, and the graphics and gameplay were definitely a step up from the 2600. So Atari knew that they had to make something to compete with that. And basically what they did is they took a lot of the internals from their computer division and put them into this big box here. So it shares a lot of the components from the Atari 400 and 800 computer systems. A funny thing happened when I first got the 5200. I actually bought it off a guy from Craigslist, and I had never owned one back in the 80s, so it was my first time owning one. And unfortunately, it didn't come with a box or manual. But I was thinking, that's not a big deal. I'll get it home and I'll hook it up, and I was really excited to play it. And then something really hilarious happened. I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to set this up. It was so bizarre. I kept thinking I was missing something because it only had one cord out of it, and that cord looks like it would go to the RF box that every other console at the time had. And I kept looking on the back of it going, where does the power hook into this? The power plugs into a proprietary switch box that allows the console to get power from one cable, which is actually pretty cool and kind of innovative. But it has this really disturbing spark, which people say is supposedly safe. I think I know what Atari was going for when they designed the switcher. When I was a young kid playing my 2600, I didn't play just one game for hours and hours and hours at a time. Typically what I did is I would play games kind of like the arcade. You'd pop in Miss Pac-Man for about 10, 15 minutes, then you'd pop in Dig Dug and maybe Hero or Decathlon, and you would kind of swap out games all the time. You were sort of surrounded by all these games and you just popped them in and out. And this is kind of designed to help you with that. You don't have to get up, you don't have to switch back and forth if you want to switch between Saturday morning cartoons in your console. It was actually pretty sweet. It was designed to be played on the floor, right in front of you. And I don't know, it actually does that very well once you sort of understand the context for it. And now we get to the Achilles heel of the 5200, and that is its infamous joystick. First off, it's way more advanced than the original 2600 controller. Notice all the buttons on the front, plus there's two buttons on either side of it, and it has a non-centering analog joystick. And that mushy joystick that didn't center turned out to be a big problem back in the day, because a lot of the games at the time were like Pac-Man or maybe Ladybug, where you needed to be able to turn very quickly up and down, left and right. Well, this joystick just didn't really do that very well. In addition to that, the build quality of this joystick was frankly terrible. I actually own 4 or 5 of these joysticks, and only one of them continues to work. Most serious collectors get around this limitation by investing in a third-party joystick by Wiko. This is a really well-built joystick, solves most of the problems that people complain about. And it does it by using this Y cable here that allows you to plug in an original 5200 controller, so you can still use the buttons like the player select and also the start and pause. What makes the 5200 so massive is this extra drawer in the back that allows you to store your joysticks. How cool is that? Here's a look at the packaging for the Atari 5200 games. They're made out of cardboard, but they have this kind of industrial look to them that I'm not a big fan of. It doesn't scream fun. And now here's a look at the cartridges. They were massive because, well, the console was massive, right? In the back, it has the space for the overlays, which you can put on the joysticks, which is kind of a nice little touch, and a lot of consoles in the 80s did that. And here you can see the size compared to the Atari 2600 version, so definitely bigger. And of course, any console is only as good as its games, and I have a bunch of them here, so let's take a look at a few. One of my favorite accessories has to be this massive trackball controller that they made. Look at the size of this thing, but it seems really well built. So it also has the number pads for both players on either side here and buttons, and you don't need another controller, which is perfect. And it works great with Centipede and also Missile Command. Those are two games that I own. Super fun to play, to kind of kick back and hold this thing in your lap. Very cool. So that's a quick look at the Atari 5200. Now, wouldn't you know it, as I'm filming this video, my last working joystick broke. I don't know why, I wasn't doing anything, I was just playing a game and it broke. So now I have like 4 or 5 of these controllers and none of them work. And it kind of demonstrates what it's like to collect for the system. It can be very frustrating. However, there's a really great site that can help you out. I'm wearing one of their shirts, it's AtariAge.com. Nobody knows more about this system than that site and the forum users. So if you're serious about collecting for this console, go on there, create an account, and just take a look at all the information that they have, including they have brand new homebrew cartridges that you can buy as well. Pretty cool site, I definitely love that. As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel and thanks for subscribing. Take care.